Okay. Have you ever been reading a book in public?
Yeah.
And you just start welling up.
Right.
You're on the train or at a cafe or somewhere like that, and you're trying to, like, discreetly wipe a tear away before anyone sees you?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, today we're going deep on books that make us cry in public.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, so we have some books that book bloggers have recommended. We've got some award winners,
Oh,
even some books that have been turned into movies.
sounds like we've got a lot to cover.
Definitely. Let's kick things off with this book, A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman.
Okay.
Have you read this one?
I have. It's a great pick.
It is. I remember reading it on a plane and trying to be all subtle about crying.
Oh, I can imagine it gets you right in the feels.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So what's so great about this book is that the main character, Ove, is like this grumpy old widower.
Oh, yeah. He leaves those passive-aggressive notes for his neighbors.
Exactly. He's so set in his ways, but deep down, he's got this heart of gold.
Yeah, you can tell he's just lonely.
Yeah, and Backman does a fantastic job of revealing Ovo's past, like bit by bit.
Right. You see why he is the way he is.
Exactly. And then these new neighbors move in.
And they kind of shake things up for him.
Totally. They're lively, they're kind of pushy, and they won't let Ova push him away.
I love those parts where he tries to get rid of them, but they just keep coming back.
Me too. It's hilarious, but also heartwarming.
Because you see him starting to soften up a little.
Exactly. He starts to reconnect with the world, and it's just so beautiful to see.
Do you have a favorite quote from the book?
Yeah, there's this one that really stuck with me. Death is a strange thing. People live their whole lives as if it does not exist, and yet it's often one of the great motivations in life.
Oh, wow. That is powerful.
It makes you think about how our awareness of death can actually make us appreciate life more, you know?
Right, like we only have so much time.
Exactly, and for Ova, it's the memory of his wife that motivates him to keep going.
It reminds us that there's always something to live for, even when we've experienced loss.
Definitely. So speaking of stories that deal with loss and resilience,
Yeah.
we have to talk about The Nightingale by Kristin Hanna.
Oh, I've heard that one's really intense.
It is. It's set in Nazi-occupied France during World War II.
So it doesn't shy away from the horrors of war?
Not at all. It follows two sisters, Vianne and Isabel, as they try to survive under Nazi rule.
It must be so difficult to portray those experiences authentically.
Yeah, but Hannah does a phenomenal job.
And she shows how women resisted the Nazis in all sorts of ways.
Not just through fighting, but also through small acts of defiance, protecting their families and communities.
Yeah, it's inspiring to see how people find strength in such terrible circumstances.
Definitely. And what's interesting is that Hannah doesn't make these sisters perfect heroes.
Right. They're flawed.
Exactly. They make mistakes. They're scared sometimes, and that makes them feel real.
Relatable.
Yeah, even though they're going through something most of us can't even imagine.
It's like their struggles make their strength even more powerful.
Exactly. There's this quote from the book that I think sums it up perfectly. If I have learned anything in this long life of mine, it is this. In love, we find out who we want to be. In war, we find out who we are.
Wow. That's really profound.
It makes you think about how extreme experiences can reveal our true nature.
And how facing adversity can shape us in unexpected ways.
Exactly. And now for something completely different.
Okay.
When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi.
This one's been on my list forever.
It's incredible. It's a memoir by a neurosurgeon who's diagnosed with terminal lung cancer.
Oh, wow. I can't even imagine facing something like that.
It's just heartbreaking to think about, being at the top of your career and then suddenly your whole world changes.
Right. He's so young.
Exactly. And what makes this book so powerful is Kalanithi's honesty and vulnerability.
Right. Like he's not afraid to share his fears and doubts.
Yeah, he wrestles with these huge questions about the meaning of life and death.
I bet it's really thought-provoking.
It is, but it's also surprisingly life-affirming. Well, Kalanithi finds beauty and meaning in the everyday, even as he's facing his own mortality.
Oh, that's so powerful.
It reminds us that even in the face of death, life is still precious.
It's about making the most of every moment.
Exactly. And Kalanithi's writing is just exquisite. He has this way of capturing the complexity of human experience so beautifully.
Do you have a favorite quote?
Yeah, this one really stuck with me. You can't ever reach perfection, but you can believe in an asymptote toward which you are ceaselessly striving.
That's beautiful.
It's about embracing the journey, even when you know you'll never reach the destination.
And finding meaning in the striving itself.
Exactly. It's about making the most of the time we have.
Well said. So for our next book, we're going to go back in time again.
Okay, I like where this is going.
This one is narrated by a very unusual character.
Oh, really? I'm intrigued.
It's The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. and the narrator is deaf.
Deaf. Wow, that's a bold choice.
I know, right? But Zusak makes it work.
Okay, I'm listening.
So the story takes place in Nazi Germany, and it follows this young girl named Liesel who finds solace in stolen books.
Wow, stolen books during that time. That's incredible.
Yeah, and Death is drawn to her story because of her resilience and her love for words.
That makes sense. She's finding beauty and hope in the midst of such darkness.
Exactly. It's like a testament to the human spirit.
It's a reminder that even small acts of kindness can make a difference.
Exactly. Like her love for books and sharing stories with others brings light into a very dark world.
Zusak's writing is just so powerful. He paints a vivid picture of that time period, but he also captures the beauty of Liesel's spirit.
Do you have a favorite quote from the book?
Oh, there's one that always sends chills down my spine. I am haunted by humans.
That's chilling, but also thought-provoking.
Yeah, it's like death is acknowledging the complexity of humanity, our capacity for both great love and terrible cruelty.
And how those forces are constantly at play.
Right, it's a reminder that we have the power to choose which side we contribute to.
And those choices shape the stories we leave behind. Okay, so this next book is a little lighter, but still packed with emotion.
All right, I'm ready for a change of pace.
Have you heard of Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt?
It rings a bell. Is that the one with the octopus?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's got this adorable cover with an octopus with these big soulful eyes.
Okay, I think I've seen it around. What's it about?
So it's about this giant Pacific octopus named Marcellus who lives in an aquarium.
Okay, that's already pretty remarkable.
Right. But Marcellus isn't your average octopus.
How so?
He's intelligent, he's observant, and he secretly longs for a life outside his tank.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
Yeah. But then he meets Tova, this elderly widow who works as a night cleaner at the aquarium.
Okay, I'm sensing a connection here.
You got it. Tova is grieving the loss of her husband and son, so she finds comfort in her routine and in the quiet company of the aquarium animals.
Especially Marcellus.
Exactly. And they form this unlikely friendship.
I love that idea. It's like a reminder that we can find connection in the most unexpected places.
And through their bond, they help each other heal and confront their pasts.
Ah, that's sweet.
It's a really heartwarming story, and it shows how even different species can connect on an emotional level.
So it's not just a lighthearted animal story.
No, it definitely has some deeper themes about grief and loss and finding new beginnings.
It sounds like the perfect blend of heartwarming and thought-provoking.
It is, and it reminds me a bit of A Man Called Ove in the way that it shows how even grumpy characters can find healing through unexpected friendships.
You know, you're right. There's a common thread running through a lot of these books.
What's that?
They're all about resilience, love, and finding hope even in the darkest of times.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's what resonates with people. It's a reminder that even when we feel alone, we're not.
Exactly. And sometimes those connections come from the most unexpected sources, like a giant Pacific octopus.
Exactly.
Oh.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about a book that explores the complexities of family and the lasting impact of the past.
Sounds intriguing.
Have you heard of Stars in an Italian Sky?
It rings a bell. Tell me more.
So it's a dual timeline story set in both 1946 and 2017.
Okay, I love those kind of stories,
Yeah.
where the past and present intertwine.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's like a puzzle you're trying to piece together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what happens in 1946?
Well, in post-war Genoa, we meet Vincenzo and Giovanna.
Yeah.
They're young, they're in love, but their families are from different social classes.
Oh, so there's that forbidden love element.
Exactly. It's a classic Romeo and Juliet setup.
I'm hooked already.
And then in 2017, we meet Cassandra and Luca.
Okay, and how do their stories connect?
Well, Luca is an artist, and he asks Cassandra's grandmother to model for a painting.
Okay.
And that's when all these family secrets start to unravel,
Oh, I love that.
right? It's like the past is reaching out and touching the present.
It makes you wonder how much our lives are shaped by the choices of those who came before us.
Exactly. And the book explores themes of love, loss, forgiveness, and the importance of family.
It sounds like a real emotional roller coaster.
It is, but it's also beautifully written
Yeah.
and really transports you to Italy.
And in the end, it's a story about hope.
Right. Like even though the past can haunt us, it doesn't have to define us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have the power to break free, forgive, and create our own futures.
That's a powerful message.
Okay.
Ready for another tearjerker?
Bring it on.
This one is a classic, The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini.
Oh, I've heard so much about this book.
It's incredible. It's set in Afghanistan and tells the story of two boys, Amir and Hassan.
And they're best friends, right?
Yes, but their friendship is complicated by social class and ethnic differences.
Right. Amir's from a wealthy family, and Hassan is the son of their servant.
Exactly. And the book explores these really complex themes of loyalty, betrayal, guilt, and redemption.
So it's not just a feel-good story about friendship.
No, it's much deeper than that. It forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about humanity.
And the consequences of our actions.
Right. Amir makes a terrible mistake that haunts him for years.
Oh, wow. That sounds intense.
It is, but
Yeah.
it's also beautifully written,
Mhm.
and the characters are so well developed.
So even though it's heartbreaking, it's also hopeful.
Yes, because it's ultimately a story about redemption and finding a way to make amends for past mistakes.
That's a powerful message. What do you think resonates with people so much about this book?
I think it's the combination of the beautiful writing, the complex characters,
Yeah.
and the exploration of universal themes.
Like love loss and the search for forgiveness.
Exactly. It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
Definitely. Okay, moving on to a different kind of story.
Let's hear it.
Have you ever read The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls?
I have. It's the memoir about her unconventional upbringing, right?
Yes. It's a really fascinating look at a very different kind of family.
I remember it challenged my ideas about what a loving family should look like.
Yeah, her parents, Rix and Rosemary, were definitely not your typical mom and dad.
They were artists and dreamers, and they lived a very nomadic life.
And they often put their own needs ahead of their children's.
Right. But there was still a lot of love there.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It is, and I think that's what makes the book so compelling.
You see the world through Jeanette's eyes.
And you understand how she could both love and resent her parents at the same time.
It's a reminder that family is messy.
And that there's no one right way to be a parent.
Definitely. And ultimately, it's a story about resilience and finding your own path in life.
Even when you come from a very unconventional background.
Exactly. It's about making peace with your past and embracing who you are.
Well said. Okay, last but not least.
Okay, what have we got?
This is a book that I know a lot of people have strong feelings about, The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold.
Oh, yes. I remember this one. It's about a young girl who is murdered and narrates the story from heaven.
That's right. It's a really unique perspective.
It is, and it allows Sebold to explore the impact of Susie's death on her family and community.
Right. It's not just about the murder itself, but about the aftermath.
Exactly, and how everyone copes with their grief in different ways.
It must be so challenging to write about such a sensitive topic.
Yeah, but Sebold does it with a lot of grace and empathy.
I think that's why it resonates with so many people.
It's a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, there's still beauty and love in the world.
And that our connections to each other endure even after death.
Exactly. It's a powerful message of hope and healing.
Well said.
You know, it's amazing how these books can make you feel so many things.
Right. Even though they're not real, it feels so personal.
Yeah, and it's like you're not alone in those feelings.
Exactly. It's been really cool hearing from all our listeners about the books that made them cry in public.
Yeah, the hashtag Deep Dive Cures hashtag has been blowing up.
It has. We've talked about so many different books.
I know, it's amazing how stories from different times and genres can all have this power to move us.
And make us cry.
Exactly. But it's not just about the tears, right?
No, it's about what those tears represent.
Exactly. Like what makes us connect so deeply with these stories.
And what they teach us about ourselves and the world.
Right. So many of these books are about more than just sadness.
Yeah, they're about resilience and love and finding hope in unexpected places.
It's like a reminder that even when things are tough, we can still find beauty and connection.
And sometimes those connections come from the most unexpected places.
Like a giant Pacific octopus.
Exactly. Speaking of unexpected connections, our listeners have been sharing some amazing recommendations with us.
They have, and some of these books didn't even make it onto our initial list.
I'm always up for new book suggestions. What have people been recommending?
Well, one that's come up a lot is Dear Edward by Anne Napolitano.
Oh, I've heard of that one. It's about the boy who survives a plane crash.
He's 12 years old, and he's the only one who makes it.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking.
It is, but it's also a story about resilience and finding a way to keep going after unimaginable loss.
And the power of human connection.
Exactly. From what I've heard, Napolitano does an amazing job of handling this really sensitive topic.
It sounds like a really powerful read.
It is. Another recommendation that came up a few times is The 100 Years of Lenny and Margot by Marianne Cronin.
That title is intriguing. What's it about?
It's about this unlikely friendship between two patients in a hospital's terminal ward.
Oh, wow. So they're both facing death.
Yeah, Lenny is 17 and Margot is 83.
That's quite an age difference.
It is, but they decide to paint a picture for every year of their combined 100 years.
That's beautiful.
It is, and in the process, they share their life stories, their hopes and dreams, their regrets.
It sounds like a celebration of life, even in the face of death.
Exactly, and a reminder that connection can happen anywhere at any time.
It's a powerful message. So I think that about wraps up our deep dive into books that make us cry in public.
It does. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have from historical fiction to memoirs to contemporary novels.
And we've explored so many different emotions.
Yeah, from grief and heartbreak to joy and hope.
But I think the one thing that connects all these books
What's that?
is the power of human connection.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we're not alone in our experiences.
And that even in the darkest of times, there's always the potential for love and healing.
Beautifully said, Yoon. I want to thank you for joining me on this journey.
It's been my pleasure.
And I want to thank all our listeners for sharing their stories and recommendations with us.
Yeah, you guys made this episode extra special.
So before we go, we want to leave you with one last thought.
What are the books that have made you cry in public?
What stories have touched your heart and stayed with you long after you finished reading them?
Share your thoughts and experiences with us on social media using #DeepDiveTears.
We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, happy reading!